Yo, welcome back to my channel. As always, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're back. Man, listen, it feels so good to sit down here and talk to you guys. You see the title, so let's just get into it. Truth is, I have been wanting to do this video for a long time. I've been wanting to do this video for a long time. One of the reasons being is because it's my story. You know what I'm saying? It's my story. This is my page. This is my channel. I want you to know what I'm about. And the other thing that prompted me to do this, so over on TikTok, I do a whole lot of sometimes I do fashion videos and get ready with me's and outfits of the day. And I just show what, my get up, show what I'm rocking and all of that. I do cologne reviews and on the other side, I do gym videos, gym vlogs and all of that. And so I had somebody inbox me some time ago and was just like, yo, can you do a video just telling, the men the different type of pants that they should have, or shirts or something, or different type of pants that they should have in their closet as men. And so then shortly after that, I had this older dude. He was just like, yo, I enjoy your gym videos. Can you do it? Can you do a workout video just teaching us how to how to do this and that? And I was just like, yeah, that's not my type of content. When I'm doing videos in the gym, I'm just doing it to, to show you what I'm doing, not necessarily telling people what to do. And so me and one of my friends, we got into this conversation. I was telling her, and she was like, but Mark, that's your content. Your content is a lot of times fashion, and it is a lot of times fitness. And I was just like, nah, but that's not, what I'm saying? I'm not a fashion and a fitness influencer. My content on whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, I do, fashion videos, and I do show myself in the gym. I do cologne reviews and I do all of that. I do travel content. But the base of my content is confidence. That's the base of my content. It's for guys who have never been that guy, but now you're on that journey and you're becoming that guy. You know what I'm saying? That's who my content is for. And so it brought me back around to my whole story about why I do what I do, why I, get online and, show what I'm rocking, or why I show up confidently in the gym. It has a lot to do with my story. It has a lot to do with where I come from. It has a lot to do with my overcoming of low self-esteem as a kid and definitely in my 20s. So the first thing about low self-esteem that I think a lot of us have to understand is that it did not start with you. Low self-esteem is something that did not originate with you. It was given to you. It was imparted into you, whether it was through an experience, through something that somebody said. And I feel like that's where it came from for me. When I was a kid, I knew early on as a kid that I was different. You know what I'm saying? Especially with being in the church. And if you know anything about being in the church, you have, the adults and then you have the teens, you know what I'm saying? And I knew as a kid, preteen, that I was a different type of boy. I was a different type of dude, you know what I'm saying? Even as a kid, all the other boys, they were into sports. They was into, video games. And me, I was into shouting and falling out and TD Jakes and wanting to bind them and speaking in tongues. I was heavy into music. I remember as a kid, just being 5, even as early as 5 years old, I always wanted to play the piano. And so I was heavy, just enamored with gospel music, with church, with adults shouting and all of that. That's what I was into. And I remember early on just having certain experiences with, the other kids in the church where it would be like, oh, he weird. He this, he different. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember always feeling like the oddball. I remember as early as 10 and 9, just always feeling like the oddball. And so coupled with that, here comes interactions with girls. You know what I'm saying? And I remember at church, there was this girl, I think we were 10 and 11. I think we probably was 11. I think we were 11. There was this girl at the church that I had the biggest crush on. I think we were 11 years old. And I had the biggest crush on her. I think we were both 11. And I remember whatsoever, everybody in the church knew, oh, Mark likes so-and-so. And I think they would call me Anthony, Anthony likes so-and-so, Anthony likes so. And I was just, every time I would see this girl 11 years old, I'd be like, oh, just acting out. I was super shy and all that stuff. And I remember this girl did not like me. She made it known. She did not like me. She did not like me at all. And I think everybody knew, oh, they would always say, Anthony likes so-and-so. And what's funny is me and this girl, we lived right around the corner from the church. I lived in one apartment building. but across the street from the apartment building, her and her parents, they had a house. And I remember, every time I would see her, like, we would play sometime. We would even play sometime, like, we after church, but she never liked me. But I remember there was this guy, we were 11 going on 12. And there was this dude, he was like, I think he was like 13 at the time, 13. And, he was just, I hate to say it, like, he was a troubled teen. He was a troubled teen. He was in and out of like juvenile jail or juvenile, whatever. He's still in that system right today. But he was like in and out of juvenile jail and whatever they call it back then. He was always into some trouble. And this girl, like, she was crazy about him. Like, she really was crazy about dude. And what's funny is that me and him was cool. Like, me and him was cool. And I remember just always thinking, like, she like him, but she don't like me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, what I'm saying? Even at school, like, I began to realize, like, I wasn't one of the dudes, because I was a short, fat kid. Like, I tell you all the time, I was a short, fat dude. I was a short, fat church dude. That's all I cared about at the time was church. But I remember there was always dudes at school that was like that dude, like even in like 8th grade, 7th grade, like the other girls would like, but I was never that guy. I was never that dude. And so fast forward to when I got to high school, also even before then, there was a girl that I had really liked in, I think it was 6th grade or 8th grade. Same experience. She didn't like me, but there was another dude that was more like, I guess, masculine, better and all that stuff. And she was crazy about him, right? And so when I got to high school became a greater experience of that. High school became a greater experience of that, to the point where it was just like, I always felt alone. Like, I always felt lame, always felt like just this lame, corny church boy, because I was somewhere listening to old school music. They used to like laugh at me because people were rocking like CD players. Here I come walking down the hall. I had a Walkman. Like, I still was playing cassettes, old school gospel music. Everybody knew, whatever, hip song was out, or, what trending, what I'm saying? Whatever, like, music that was in at the time. And for me, I was listening to old school gospel music. Shirley Caesar, Caravans, Dottie Peoples, I'm saying? Albertina Walker, what I'm saying? Ricky Dillard. Like, I was just like in my own thing, what I'm saying? And I just remember like not having a lot of friends that were like me. Not having a lot of, especially guy friends that were like me. And I could feel like people in high school being like, So one of the things that I used to do was I used to try to compensate for that. And I became the class clown, because I thought if people were laughing, at me, then they were laughing with me. No, they were laughing at me. And so I became the class clown. I used to go through the hallways, be all loud and stuff just to get attention and all that. People would laugh like, oh my God. And people would laugh at me, but they never was like, just like, it was never enough to be like, he funny. I like him. It was like, he funny. Keep him over there. You know what I'm saying? So I became a class clown. Everybody throughout high school used to always say, oh my God, you're funny. You're so funny. You're so funny. And I never forget when I was in 10th grade, I had to meet with the school counselor, and she was going over like, I think it was like the road or progress to graduation or something. And I never forget, she asked me a question. She was like, because I was like failing. My grades were like horrible. And I never forget, she had asked me a question. She was like, what do you do besides come to school and make people laugh? I was like, oh, she pissed at me. Like, she was so mad at me. I never forget that. She was like, we got to get this together. And, but that was the only way I knew how to like get people to even pay attention to me, was to do crazy stuff, was to be the class clown. And, as it relates to women, when I got to like, I dated this girl in 10th grade. I think I had a girlfriend in 10th grade. And I remember at that time, like, the next year of us dating or whatever, I don't even remember what happened, but it was a guy that she had really liked. Like, it was a guy that she had just really liked, and she basically told me like, I'm gonna leave you for him. And I was just like, yo, it is what it is. So fast forward to 11th grade. So when I hit 11th grade, I was really cool with my friend Charles, and he had a friend. He had a female friend that When I saw her like in 11th grade, I thought she was just like the prettiest girl I've ever seen. And I used to ask him all the time, like, yo, put me on, da da da. I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? And I thought like she was the prettiest girl ever. And I think I had bought her like a Christmas gift or something. I was so stupid. But she didn't tell me, but she told my friend at the time, not my friend Charles, but it was another friend. She told my friend that she thought I was unattractive. And I'll never forget that. Like, she was like, I just think he's unattractive. No. And I remember, like, she later in life confirmed it was true. And I just remember being in 11th grade just thinking, like, yep, it's confirmed. I'm ugly. Like, that broke my self-esteem all the way down. I was just like, I'm ugly. Like, yeah. And so what I did was I tried to do the whole friend zoning thing. And listen, we are well in our 30s. I am 34. This is high school. If you are in your 30s being friend zoned, you need help. All friend zone mean is that you got rejected, but you are sticking around. If a girl rejects you, listen, do not stick around. Move on with your life. But this is high school. I didn't know no better. I didn't know no better. So anyway, so I just remember like her rejecting me and was being like I was unattractive. And so what happened was me and her became friends. Like me and her became friends. And what's funny is my friend that she told and confirmed that she said that I was unattractive, they start dating like right after high school. And I just used to always be like, yo, like I'm a good dude. Like what's wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? So make a long story short, let's go back. So then when I got to senior year of high school, there was this girl. Now this girl I was crazy about. I was crazy about this girl. Like, and I don't even know, this is senior year of high school. I used to come on strong because I used to always think this is the only girl that would ever like me in life. You know what I'm saying? Why would somebody like me? You know what I'm saying? I'm fat. I'm a church dude. I'm not, I ain't masculine like the other dudes. I ain't hood. Blah, blah, blah. Why would this girl want me? You know what I'm saying? And I remember she would do certain things that I would notice, like she wouldn't allow us to like kiss in front of people, or like she just wouldn't. I don't even know if we kissed, but I just remember like when it got to other people, she would always like not allow people see us liking each other in front of people. You know what I'm saying? She would only deal with me, behind closed doors. Like she would have, certain events at her house. And I remember like, she used to always ask like, my grandma want to know, why you ain't come? Cause I'm like, you ain't invite me, you know what I'm saying? But she would always do that. And so it took me years to get over her. And so when I turned like 21, I kind of began to recognize like, hey, like she was leading me on and she really wasn't rocking with me like that. You know what I'm saying? And that broke me down. So by the time I got to like 20, by the time I got to my 20s, I had just concluded that, girls didn't like me. I just thought it was because I'm ugly. You know what I'm saying? I'm ugly. I'm lame. I'm a church dude. Nobody want that. I'm fat. It is what it is. And so I just, figured like, hey, I'm just an ugly dude and it is what it is. And around this time I had started to get into the gym. And so I am going to do a video after this talking about Body Game and how Body Game changed my interactions with women. That's a whole nother video. But even at this point, like I had started to get into the gym and, but I still had low self-esteem. I still looked at myself as this person that just women didn't like. I thought I was the ugliest person ever. I remember being in community college and I'll never forget, it was this girl. She was dark skinned, fine as I don't know what. I mean, and I used to see her every day, like, whoa. I think I was like 21 or 22 at the time. And I'll never forget, like, she had like a Nia Long cut. Never forget, beautiful woman. And I never forget, like, I had like a literature class in this room. And I had music class in this room. So what I used to do was, I never forget this. I used to like, at the end of that class, I would sleep and stay in that room until I had music class. You know what I'm saying? So everybody else would leave, but I would be the only one in there because I had another class in that room. And so I would do that, not all the time, but every so often. But I remember this one time I had fell asleep, because I had another class in there. And the instructor, she was like, and the girl was in front of me. And I guess what happened was she had woke me up. She was like, are you okay? Because class is over. And I was like, ooh, this girl's so fine. And I was just like, oh yeah, I have another class in here. And my instructor came over. I never forget this. He was just like, he was this old, I wouldn't say older. He was probably like in his mid to late 30s at the time. This mid to late 30s white guy. He was like, dude, you should totally get at her. He was like, she was so, it's so funny. He was like, she was so concerned, dude. He was like, she just kept looking at you and just and I remember just being so disgusted that this dude thought that I would even think that I had a shot with her. Like, I was so like, what? Like, I was so disgusted that this dude even thought that this girl would even want me. I was just like, no, she probably, and I remember in that moment being like, no, and I just was downplaying, like, no, she just probably was concerned, and it was annoying me because I was thinking like, dude, you don't know who I am. I'm ugly, I'm lame, I'm da-da-da-da. Just going through the list, right? And so I remember that to this day. So while all this was going on, the girl that rejected me in high school in 11th grade, me and her became friends. Like, we became best friends. And all our friendship was in the beginning was just one big friend zone. It was just me just waiting around in my early 20s, hoping for a shot with her. And she was the type of girl, she wasn't promiscuous or anything like that, but she dated because she was very attractive. She was very pretty. I mean, we was in our early 20s. And so, you know what I'm saying? So she was just like beautiful, like at that time. And I remember she would like just date like so many guys. Like we used to, like, she could go into Target and just get like, dudes would just be after her. Like, she was that type of chick. And every time she dated like so many guys, like back to back, back to back. And every time she would date a dude, it would always end up in heartbreak. It would always end up in him not being, you know, a good guy, or him just dogging her, it was always something. And I just remember me and her would hang out all the time, and I would just sit back and be like, yo, what about me? Like, what about me? I remember like during this time I had got into the gym. Like very heavy. And I remember we used to do this thing where we would stop talking because I would be like, I can't be friends with you because you don't want me. You know what I'm saying? I was so stupid, man. And so we would go like months without talking. And I remember like I was in the gym and I would be like, man, wait till I see her. Like, she gonna be like, and we reconnected. And Applebee's was our spot. It was Applebee's or Fridays. Fridays or Applebee's was our spot. We would go like every weekend. And I remember like she had came to pick me up, and I was like, when she see me, she gonna be like, you know what I'm saying? And she would be like, oh, okay, nice. And she wouldn't say nothing. And I used to be like, dang, like, what's wrong with me? Like, it's official. It's official. I'm ugly. Like, bro, not nobody wants you. It's okay. Like, chill out. You ugly. You know what I'm saying? So I just went through my 20s just believing that I was ugly. Now, she did come around when we were like 25, like when we was like 28 or 27. And, you know, by this time, I wasn't feeling her. But that's a whole nother subject. She did come around and was just like, hey, I want to date you. Because I had just started to become like, I had just started to gig outside of church. Like, I started to do music gigs, like at these, you know, R&B spots and all that stuff. So she would be like, I like seeing you in your element. Da, 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 da. But about this time, I really wasn't feeling her. And I was already, you know, on to other women at this time, right? I just went through my 20s just believing that women didn't like me. And it wasn't just a thing with women. I just believed just that I was beneath everybody. I remember when me and my ex-girlfriend broke up, and, you know, if you don't know, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a church musician, I'm an organist, all of that. And I remember, like, she had told me that she had got with this organist dude, another organist. And she was like, you know, I'm done with us, and I'm dating Tim now. And I knew Tim was an organist. And my first thought was, I never forget thinking, like, man, he probably played the organ better than me. She probably with him because he can play better. He's a better musician. And I just remember thinking that, like I was just like, my self-esteem was shot. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget when I was 20, I think I was 25 at the time. I had dated this girl. She was a flight attendant. And we used to work at this call. This was before she was a flight attendant. But me and her used to work at this call center. And I'll never forget, like, I used to like train the new hires. I would train the new hires for the job. I would walk around, ask questions. Now, what was crazy was at this particular time in my life, between like 24 and like, I think I was at this job from like 24 to like 26 or something like that. Like, it was always a girl at this call center, like, trying to get with me. It was always a girl telling me how fine I was, how sexy and chocolate I was, because I was in the gym, you know what I'm saying? They would see, like, you so buff and all that stuff. I would always wear fitted shirts. There was always a girl at this call center checking for me. That's a whole nother video, you know what I'm saying? But my self-esteem was so shot that I just, I didn't know, I ain't had no game. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know how to work the system. You know what I'm saying? So I never forget, it was this girl who used to work there, and I remember, like, just to this day, like, and I think anyway, I was about to say something, but I remember to this day, like, seeing her, like, and she just was fine. Like, this girl was beautiful. And I remember she had approached me, and at that time, and so I was just, come on, cool, let's go with it. And we had went out for dessert. I never forget, we had went out for dessert for our first date. And so when we got to the restaurant, I remember asking her, I said, why you like me? You know what I'm saying? Like, why me? And I never forget her response was, she said, the reason why I like you is because when you are answering people's questions in the training center, she said, I watch you make people feel like they're important. And I was like, wow. And I remember thinking in my head, like, I make people feel important because I know what it feels like to not feel important. Like, I'm the youngest one in my family, the shortest one in my family. Like, I'm the only boy. You know what I'm saying? Even around my family growing up, I always felt like nobody really notices me sometimes. I always felt that way growing up. Like, I never really had cousins that were like, oh, I can't wait to get to the cookout, see my cousin. Like, I never had that. I was always, like, off to myself. So I just always felt like I'm just unimportant. Like, don't nobody care about me. I'm just this lame, corny church dude. Boy, dude, shut up. You know what I'm saying? So I just know what it feels like to feel like unimportant. You know what I'm saying? And I never forget that. So when I got through my 20s, it just was a cycle. And yes, I've had fun. Like, I one-night stands. I mean, I can give you stories about, how I did get with this girl, or did get with that girl, or how I did. But it was always this feeling of me just feeling like I'm ugly, and just me being afraid. I was scared out of my mind in my 20s to approach women. And so when I got like 27, I was involved with this girl who was already involved with somebody else. And I was just like going over the fact, I was just like crazy about this girl. And this girl did me so wrong. She was not good for me. My friends knew it. My family knew it. God knew it. Jesus knew it. And I'm sure Satan did too. This girl was not good, but I was just like, oh, this would be the only girl that would ever like me, that would ever give me time. And she really wasn't giving me time. But I was just so going over the fact that she was cute and she had a fat booty, like, that I just like did not see the danger and the destruction to my self-esteem of what I was allowing. I was always somewhere crying. I was always somewhere thinking. I remember thinking it was because, like, it always goes back to the source. And the source is, I'm ugly. Women don't like me. I'm lame. Everybody else is better than me. This just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I remember that was the year. It was I was 28 at the time. And I always say 28 was such a powerful year for me. And I just remember going through that situation with an old girl. And I was just like, I got to do something about this. Like, I got to do something about this. I'm always crying about something. I'm always thinking I'm just lame. I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. I'm always like just having this horrible self-esteem. Like, what is going on? You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, I'm gonna go to therapy. Actually, I had a coworker. I had a coworker at the time, because I was going to therapy through my job. They had this like program, and I just remember going to therapy, and it was this older white guy. And he was like, and I was in there like, yeah, this girl, she don't like me. And she's like taking me through the ringer, and she played with me. She give me her time. We sneak over here and da da da. And he was like, show me a picture of her. And I show him a picture. He was like, dude, she thinks you're attractive. You need to look at it that, and he was so he just kept harping on the fact that it was an attractive girl who thought I was attractive enough to give me scraps, that I should focus on that. So he just was not getting it. And I just remember leaving that like therapist, and I was like, I can't do this no more. So I stopped going to therapy, and I had a coworker who at the time I was telling her about the situation. And she was like, I know a guy who is a black man, who is a therapist. She was like, I think you should go see him. And at this point I was desperate. So I was just like, okay, let's put me on. So she gave me his contact information and I contacted him immediately. To this day, he is still my therapist to this day. I actually need to go see him soon, actually. He is my therapist to this day. And I just remember that very first session. I get to the therapy and you know what I'm saying? Now, mind you, at this time, let me tell you how crazy it was. I didn't have a car. I was living at home. I was sleeping on the floor at home. I was making $12 an hour. Like my self-esteem was to the floor. Like life was a mess. I used to have to get on a bus to take, you don't know where Kenwood is, you don't live in my city, but take it all the way out like Kenwood and then take an Uber the rest of the way, another 20 minutes. I didn't care. I was desperate. I would do this every Friday. And I just remember the very first session, he was like, why are you here? And I remember like going to that therapy session and in the very first session, I remember my therapist asked me, he was like, you know, why are you here? And I was just like, you know, because I'm ugly, because I'm lame, because girls don't like me, because I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, I got a gap, I'm just going on and on, like giving my therapist reasons on why I shouldn't be loved, you know, on why I shouldn't be liked. And I was just like, you know, I'm lame, you know, I'm ugly. And I would never forget, and I talked about this before in another video, I would never forget the words that my therapist spoke. The Bible said that our words have power. I never forget what my therapist said next. It wasn't even some profound revelation or some profound, like, oh my God, it wasn't even something deep. But I never forget, after everything I said, he looked at me and he was like, there is nothing wrong with you. And I don't know what it was. I still remember to this. Now I'm bawling my eyes out, crying. Like, and I remember to this day, like those specific words, it just began to start the liberation process. And he was like, this is not high school anymore. And so he began to help me to see like how me not being raised by my mom and how it deals with, you know, it has a lot to deal with how I interact with women, how me being raised by my aunt. Like I love my aunt, but my aunt growing up, like we didn't do a whole lot of hugging and just, oh, you know, give me a hug. Like I didn't hear a lot of times like, hey, you're handsome, you're talented, you should go. Like my aunt was more authoritative, you know, and my aunt was more of the type of aunt that like if you wanted something, like she would buy it. Like she would get you anything, like as far as gifts or whatever. But my aunt came from, she was old school, you know what I'm saying? And so my therapist just began to help me build my self-esteem from the ground up. And so when I look at myself now, like people be like, you all online posting your fits and you just think who told you can, man, listen. Do you not know what I had to get through to just get to this spot where I feel like I am a handsome man? I'm fine as, you know what I'm saying? No, I'm joking. I should not have said that. But I do think I'm handsome. I know that I'm talented. I'm a good person. I know that I know my confidence in my walk with God. I know that. Like, and it was just like back then, you could not have got me to see that. And so that's why, like, when I deal with women now, because my friends be like, oh, you cut women off too quick. Like, the first minute I see that you're not interested, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like my self-esteem, it even translates to how I walk in rooms with other people, how I walk in interviews. All of that shifted when I turned 28. Like, that was a very powerful year. And not only did therapy help me build my self-esteem up from the ground up, but going to the gym, working on my physical, my physical appearance. I'm in the gym 6 days a week. My friends, getting around people. And here is the thing, you have got to get around people that sees your transformation. I never forget, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I never forget, I had a friend. I went to go see a friend in Chicago, and you know, he's my guy. But I went to go see a friend in Chicago. This was like years ago. And I remember we were like doing a toast. We were trying to do a toast. And you know, because we millennials, we were trying to do a boomerang. And he's known me from high school. And so we were like doing like a boomerang, and think I had like bumped the glass a little too hard against somebody else's glass, and something had the drink had kind of spilled out. And I remember saying to them like, "Y'all, I'm sorry." I was just like, "Let's do it again. Like, don't put that on social media." And he was just like, "No, no, we're gonna keep that. We're gonna keep." And I was just like, "Why?" And he was like, "Because that's just who you are. You're goofy. That's who you are." And I would never forget that hurt my feelings. I remember just remembering like that had hurt my feelings so bad, because I was just like, man, like I don't ever want to be perceived as just this guy that's funny. I'm so much more than that, because the people that knew me from high school, that's like, oh, like I see people, they be like, I'm 34. They be like, say something funny. Just, man, listen, I am 34 and rent is due on the 1st. And I'm trying to pay it by the 5th. I ain't got no funny in me right now. But it's just like those people that knew me then, like, oh, you're so funny. They didn't know that I was only funny back then because I felt like I had to be. I felt like I had to be that in order to be, perceived or to be noticed by people. So now when I'm funny online or I'm funny in interaction, I'm funny now because I can be, or because I want to be. And you got to find people that know that journey. Like my friend Maya, she's a great example. I never forget, she said to me, she said, Mark, I just see your journey. And she says this to me all the time. Those are the people that you need around you that can say, I remember way back when, but I see you now. So not only did therapy help me, but getting around people that can say, you're more confident now. Not this, you done changed, or who you think you must think you. Yes, I do. Whatever you think I think I am. I do think it. So therapy, for me, it was the gym and getting around people that love you. And of course, God. Like, if you are a believer like myself, you have got to crack that book open and you have got to hear and see what God say about you. And yeah, man, and here I am today. Like, I still have times where I have to remind myself. I never forget, I heard Iyanla Van Zant say, continue your healing work. Rehearse your healing work. It is an ongoing journey, but I am way much better than I was in my 20s. Like, and I fought for this.